She's one wonderful example of how Italian craftsmanship has gone through a very rough patch, but is now like really reemerging and redefining itself through the next generation. These are people that come from families that have been doing this forever, and so now they're taking it on with their own creativity, and you feel it when you're surrounded by this kind of love. And so for the first time, it's a mix of different generations and styles of craftsmen.
Benvenuti a Ciao Bella. I'm your host, Erica Firpo. For the past 20 years, I've made my home in Rome, where I've worked as a journalist contributing to publications including Afar, Washington Post, Lonely Planet, and Travel and Leisure. I love sharing the stories of Italy's pioneering creators, and I'm bringing these stories directly to you on Ciao Bella. Every week, I'm joined by contemporary artists, heritage artisans, designers, culinary experts, innovative aesthetes, and more. At the crossroads of evolution and tradition, the past and the future, they are working and creating to define and redefine 21st century Italy. Join me as we see Italy through their eyes. Hotelier Sarah Maestrelli loves and lives Italy. Her family's Collezione M, luxury boutique hotels in Tuscany and now the Veneto, are celebrations of local artisans and territory. In 2023, Sara relocated to Venice to curate the style and atmosphere of Violino d'Oro, Collezione M's latest boutique on a tiny campo near Piazza San Marco. Mix up a martini and join me with Sara to talk about creating a home
I
in
still
Venice.
think that the majority of the stereotype of Italy for the foreigner or for the American is, pizza, pasta, and all that kind of stuff. And
Mandolino.
yeah. And I would like to, so that's why like these kind of things for me are like super exciting to share. Like you're this young woman and you have now it's 4 hotels,
Five.
right? It's 5. Hold on a second. It's a good thing I'm not.
We've got,
2 in Florence.
2 in Florence.
2 in Portimao.
2 in Portimao.
Okay, yeah. So really what I want to talk with you about is you and talk about the other thing that I particularly love about this hotel, aside from the location, is, because it's an incredible location, but what I love about this hotel is that just the amount of personality that you put in it and how you really try to keep it with Venice.
Yep.
And I know also you brought in a lot of Italian too, so it's not like it has to just be Italian, but it's all, this is all picked by you. And it was funny, what did you say in your email? You said, I'll be in the lobby. Basically, how did you
I sit just beneath that lady there. Usually that's my office. So I feel a bit like I'm one of the ladies in the art pieces and in the ancients.
You become a fixture.
I've become part of the furniture, absolutely, 100%. So,
well, actually I could say you look like you could be a painting, so.
I think in the end you kind of like, ti camuffi in Italian. Now you become part of the atmosphere you're surrounded by, and I live here now, so I'm literally here all the time, and it's my creature, so yeah, I think I'm a part of it somehow.
I loved when you wrote me that. I was laughing so hard, and actually it was funny because when I was walking through here, I was like looking in the window, and I was like, what if I just saw her actually as like a sculpture sitting there?
I think that's what people usually think because they walk by, and there's a lot of people walking up and down and sitting here every day,
like
all
a live
day.
Performance.
Yeah, and they're like, in the beginning when we opened and there was no one, and all of a sudden like this big scaffolding became, it was opened, and there's a lot of windows, so people would pass by. And I think they would think, like, what is this? Like, is this a hotel? Because it doesn't really look like a hotel. So, like, is this a hotel? Is this a home? And who is she? Like, why is she having every meal in this living room? And, like, it's only her. Why is it only her? Because, obviously, it was the beginning, so there was no one. And
it sounds like really a story, funny. Like the girl who lived
alone. The girl who all of a sudden lived in this house in Venice. And it was November, so it was foggy. And, like,
all by herself in the Palazzo.
All by herself. And sometimes Matteo comes over and hands her a martini and leaves. And, like, that's kind of weird, but...
Yeah. And it was because now when you talk about this, I'm like, oh my God, you're actually that woman.
I don't know what happens in the movie. So
but it's you. No.
But it's me. But hopefully I have a happy ending. I don't know what happens.
But I thought maybe we could start just talking a little bit about you and these beautiful hotels and, your very cool website, which... It's very artsy. It's probably the most un-hotel website I've ever seen.
Let's hope it works.
For me, I'm sold.
Well, it's a beautiful project. It's a very humane project, and it's been a project, like I told you, that most of all has truly been full of love. So Violino d'Oro, so my family, we're in hospitality. We've been in hospitality for many, many years, and in Tuscany. And then we've been looking for a place in Venice for over 6 years. And we were looking for the perfect location. Of course, that was one of the most important things because Venice is a very, very difficult city to walk around. But then we were also looking for a place that felt like something.
You had to get the personality. I mean, it's hard.
It's very hard. And in Venice, you can't build anything. And obviously, it's very small. And if you're looking for the location, it's even more small. And it's not like you can just, I don't know, pop it out of nowhere. So it was difficult. So we went to see various things, and then nothing really convinced us. And then one day, my Aunt Elena, with whom I work, she came to see Violino d'Oro. And it was actually 3 hotels. They were selling 2 at the time, and the third one, which is the smallest one, connected the 2 hotels.
So I think just to give everybody an idea, we're just off the Grand Canal. We're just behind San Marco, and when she says 3 hotels, these are not big.
No, at all. No. Like tiny hotels that were basically the palazzos touched each other, but they worked separately. So they were worked as 3 small, very small hotels. And so she saw the first one, Violino d'Oro, and from the square, and she was like, she looked at my father, she was with my father, and she said, this is it. It's either this or we don't look in Venice anymore. And she didn't even walk in. So just to say that Violino was a place that was literally love at first sight for Elena. And then from that, we started with all the design project. And it was me, Elena, and our architect working 4 days a week together and going around from auctions to art shows to fairs to trade shows to small antique markets around Italy, and trying to come up with what we thought that our home in Venice would look like. And it was quite tricky in the beginning because Venice is very often seen as its golden age, which were like the 16th and the 1700s, so 1600, 1700 mainly. And that is kind of what defines Venice in the common image of the world. Whereas Venice is actually a melting pot, and an incredible melting pot of art, of design, of art history, even contemporary art, of course, with the Biennale. And it starts as back as Marco Polo, as back as all the ancient Asian influences, and then yes, it goes through the 16th and the 17th centuries, but then it goes up to the 20th century with the big craftsmen and design brands like Venini and all the glass, of course, and Carlo Scarpa, architects such as him. So really so many different influences. And then up until today, on April 16th, there's going to be the inauguration of the Venice Biennale this year, the Art Biennale. So contemporary art, of course. So it's very reductive to think of Venice as something just, brocades and big tents, and that's it, fluffy beds. Ooh, we got a drink.
Not just a drink, we've got your drink, which is my drink.
Which is now Eric's drink. No, it's so this is it's our Sarah loves Chopin because I love Chopin vodka, and it's our bartender's signature. In this, for example, this is Berengo, the glass that you're drinking your martini from. And Berengo is one of those glass makers in Murano, probably the only one who has started dealing with contemporary art. And he invites over all these international important contemporary artists to do collaborations with glass making in Murano that used to be, and to some extent is still today, a very traditional ancient thing, and that now is starting to expand as a more contemporary.
Well, last year there was a 5-day show at the Baths of Diocletian in Rome. Mm-hmm. And so, the Baths of Diocletian, this big ancient site, and inside it was this incredible glass sculpture, and it was Highway with Berengo.
Exactly.
And it was just for 5 days. It was the coolest thing.
And it's incredible. So you come to Venice, Chin, and the Berengo made these glasses for Violino d'Oro. But you come to Venice and you think, Venice, the ancient chandeliers. But right on top of us are one of the most iconic productions by Venini, designed for the Paris Expo at the mid-last century. So something that has absolutely nothing to do with the ancient hand blowing of Murano, but that is absolutely 100% a masterpiece of Venice and of a more modernist Venice. Which are the poliedri. So that was the whole point. This proves the whole point of what we're doing with Violino d'Oro. So,
but I think I think your idea from the start, making it like your house, I think you, no, I mean, I don't know what your house looks like, but if this is your house, I really like it. But I think it's also like, you walk in here, it's not, you're absolutely right, it's not, you haven't gotten rid of the brocade. Like, you haven't gotten rid of the old,
No,
I
no.
mean, it's here, but it's beautiful because this is definitely, I think everything in here is a compilation of the history of Venice artistically, which is, I don't know, like what you're saying with the polyhedrons by Vanini, or you have contemporary art in the front that I know you've picked because you were telling me about it before.
Yeah, I love my contemporary art, and again, yes, a mix. How can you have Venice without contemporary art? How can you live a home today without a contemporary component to it, of course? As you were mentioning Vanini, but you were mentioning the brocades that are sitting right behind us on the pillows. Same thing happened.
Is this Rubelli?
This is a brocade by Rubelli. But again, this is also Rubelli. All the velvets are Rubelli. All the textiles are Rubelli. But at Rubelli as well, yes, we went with the brocades. Now, this is probably not the most traditional kind of a revisitation by Rubelli, but we do have the traditional ones. We do have the velvets, but at the same time, we went with a lot of the textiles that you have in your room, which are by Luc Edward Hull. So it's Rubelli, designed by Luc Edward Hull.
Who's a contemporary illustrator.
Who's a very contemporary, very young
Yeah.
illustrator. But he had this project with Rubelli, and obviously the textiles were then produced in Venice, and Rubelli is still a Venetian family. So the pillows with Luke's designs are absolutely contemporary, and some might look at them and think this is not Venice, but oh yes, it's Venice. It was made in Venice by Venetians, by a Venetian family. It was just inspired and designed by a contemporary illustrator. So does it make it not Venetian? It's very Venetian. So that's the whole point of what we were trying to do. And yeah.
Well, you should mention, because I think that's, when I walked in here and I saw this floor, and I was like, this is the most beautiful floor I've seen.
Grazie.
And I think, when you told me the story, I was like, wow,
This is traditional. This is very, very traditional, but also very particular. So the floor is seminato, or terrazzo marble. It's very traditional, but specifically in Venice. Very ancient technique that is made by basically you pick the marbles, and again, we picked every single piece of marble and shade of marble with our architect one by one. Didn't go well on the first try. And then basically you break it into small pebbles, small pieces, and then it's all mixed, and then it's laid down like some big pastry. And then the designs are all hand laid one by one. And this is one of the last Venetian families that still does the hand laying of the seminato by hand. So leather knee pads, they're on their knees, and they do the designs one tiny piece at a time, and we documented it all because it's truly,
I mean, that's beautiful. That's incredible.
incredibly unique. The special thing about this pavement, other than the fact that a family, including a 19-year-old Azine, hand-laid it, not 90, not 19.
90.
90.
90,
yeah.
90 years
90
old.
years
Wow.
old guy
90.
did the rose decorations that are in the restaurant. It's also that it's black, it's dark. So usually the seminato that you will find in Venice, the paste here in the middle is white, chiara. This is black, and it's very difficult to make it dark because you have to add a lot of ossidi in order to make the paste this shade of dark. If you go around Venice and you happen to see the seminato, or even if you go upstairs on the corridors, we did the contrast, so upstairs it's white. If you happen to go around Venice, you'll see it. You'll see a lot of seminato, but
You'll
keep
never
in
see
mind
this.
that most of the times it's yellowish, it's beige.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
That's it, and this is dark. So this is also, I think, the reason why you walked in and you were like, oh, because it's weird to see it this color.
I mean, it's really beautiful. And then I think the thing when I walked in here was I was wondering, is this the original? Is this original? What is this? Because I know also the other thing is this Violino d'Oro was always called Violino d'Oro,
Sì,
correct?
esatto. And the other two were called Anastasia and Lisbona, which couldn't be named. We didn't like them.
This sounds like Casa de Papel, like Lisbona.
Lisbona, right? It doesn't really make sense like that. Violino d'Oro we liked because apparently someone told us a story that we're very close to the Fenice Theater, and this has been a hotel for many, many years, and a lot of the music, passionates, people that would travel to see the opera would stay at Violino d'Oro to go and visit the Fenice, and so that there was some kind, this was what we've been told, of connection, and this is the reason for the name. In any case, we liked the name. Hotels are like boats. You never change a name. And so we are very close to the Fenice Theater, and so we kept the Violino d'Oro name.
Do you since you've now unified, well, no, I mean, there were two that were already unified, but then you've added the third.
So basically, really, when we acquired them, the two hotels that we acquired first were not connected, because it's this and the one where you find the restaurant, Il Piccolo, okay? The salotto of the water entrance, the building of the water entrance, which is the building that connects the other two. And again, it seems when you talk about it that you're talking about this huge, buildings all together. It's really like something super tiny.
I mean, it's like a little labyrinth. How many rooms are there again?
32.
Yeah, it's really tiny.
It's really tiny. That third one we acquired a little bit later, so it was kind of risky, because when things are meant to be, because if we hadn't bought that, we would have two separate buildings. So that was
so it was like the one in Mezzo.
The one in Mezzo that we bought later.
I didn't realize that.
So that's when I say it was meant to be, because everything fell exactly where it was supposed to fall, and it just came together.
Well, you know what I think is really also kind of amazing about this is you have the water entrance on the side, which is just spectacular. It's gorgeous actually at nighttime when you walk up to it, because it's like inky and mysterious, and you're just kind of coming on the side. It's very, very suggestive. But also you have the hotel, the Violino d'Oro, has this really unique position in that it has the front courtyard and then this back area. It's like it stands alone. It has a different feeling than the rest of Venice, because Venice, it's a ton of palazzi all smushed together over, we're talking like 1,500 years of history, maybe 1,600 at this point. So it's nice that you have this space. It's beautiful.
I think in the end, what started as a bit of a challenge, we were thinking, okay, how are we going to manage this thing with the separate buildings and the back and the front? It came out to be an advantage, because as you were saying, it gives you the possibility of kind of like creating our ancient clock going off.
It's time.
It's time. I don't know what time. It goes on its own. Like literally, it does make sense. So like each building, kind of what you were saying, creates its own space. And so you have the little restaurant, which is on the square of Corte Barozzi, which, yes, it's connected to the rest of the hotel, but it also stands on its own. And then you have the Violino, which has the main entrance on Calle 22 Marzo, so yes, in the very center, but then it has the space that we have here in the back with all the gondole and this kind of little street and passage, and then again the water entrance. So it's kind of like a little borghetto, so like a little,
Yeah, you've created your own little neighborhood.
Our own little neighborhood, yeah. Our own neighbors are ourselves.
Led by passionate local guides, Walks of Italy takes you through La Serenissimi's labyrinth of calle to experience the history and stories. With Walks of Italy, my family and I have explored the canals and lagoon on a motoscafo with a local Venetian, and we've gone behind the scenes of Palazzo Ducale with an expert guide. Next time I visit, we'll try the Tastes and Traditions food tour that takes you deep into the history and culture of the city through its most iconic dishes. If you want to immerse yourself in Venice beyond Piazza San Marco and Rialto, let Walks of Italy show you Venice's secrets, stories, and treasures. Visit walksofitaly.com.
Now, I have a question for you, the lady in the Palazzo, because how long have you lived in Venice?
So Venice has always been a city that was very dear to my family. We have friends here. We used to come often, but we're from Florence and we live in Florence. When we started the project, I would come every 2-3 months. My cousin Nicola, he was in charge of the construction site, and so he would come much more often. And then when the design and the interior started arriving, that's when I had to be here. So around May of last year.
Of 2022 or
of 2022.
2022, okay.
Oh, of 2023, sorry.
2023.
May of last year, May of 2023. I moved here kind of definitely. Already from the beginning of 2023 on and off. So not much really. We're going for 1 year now, and but now it's like full time. And
so tell me, I'm curious, because I too had when I was younger, I moved to Venice and I lived here for a while, and I spent a lot of time in Rome. So coming to Venice for me was like diving into cold water. It was a very big shock to my system. Okay. So I'm curious as to your experience.
Oh, I love it. Lady in the Palazzo loves it.
write a book.
Honestly,
you're gonna be the main character. You're gonna
like,
be the only character.
of course, it's only me in this palazzo. No, I adore it. I have to say, you too, because you were coming from Rome. I feel lucky I was coming from Florence, so we can say that we're used to the beauty. But the beauty of Venice is something that blows your mind every day, regardless of how long you've been living here or staying here. It just shocks you. So if you're sensible to that, it's already something. Even when I go out for dinner, or when I go out for a walk, or when I go out, and even in the night alone, especially now in the winter. I arrived here on Sunday. I was back in Florence, and when I got off the train, this vision, it was like kind of going into a sauna, like with all the humidity, but like a freezing one.
Yes, because it's the last day of January.
Oh yeah, it's the last day of January.
It's a different kind of sauna than most people are thinking.
No, it's more like a Turkish bath. Do you say in English Turkish? Bagno turco?
You can say it.
You know the one when
wet sauna, but
wet sauna. Yeah. It's like a wet sauna, but freezing
cold.
Freezing cold. But the fog was so thick you couldn't see anything. You couldn't even see the canal from the train station. The only thing you can see when the fog is this thick are the lamp lights and sometimes the bridges. And so it's so incredibly magical. And honestly, it's mysterious. The people, it's a small town compared to many cities in Italy, I found. I don't know if you share this vision of Venice. And you can really sense that it's a city that has gone through the history it has gone through even today. And so in my experience, I wouldn't go anywhere else.
How long do you think you're going to stay here?
Forever.
She's locked in the palazzo.
And my family in Florence is like, you come back.
Have they noticed you've started sounding a little bit less Toscana and more Venetian?
I don't sound very Toscana at all. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully, I would love to pick up some Venetian accent. I don't know. We have a new opening for 2025 as well, which is Pensione American Forte dei Marmi. Which I'm working on, obviously the design project as well. We have just acquired how can I explain it? The full acquisition of a property in Florence, which we owned.
Well,
before.
actually, let's give everybody a little bit of a recap.
Okay.
So, I have stayed at your hotel in Florence, which is called
Brown Hotel Minerva.
And I think what blew my mind was because I love modern architecture. And there's a whole level of, how would I describe it? It is to me the only place in Florence that gives a really great example. It's a great example of, mid-century Italian design. It's nuts. It's like this little jewel because everybody, when you come to Florence, you're like, Renaissance, I love it. And I was like, oh my God.
What is this? The Minerva it's a great example of modernist design. It's quite special because although it is one of the oldest hotels. I'm trying to figure out if it's the oldest.
Really?
Yeah, still open today in Florence because it started in 1848. Huh. And of course there were hotels in Locande before that, but that is still open today and operating as a hotel. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Building dates back to the 13th century. It was part of the monastery of Santa Maria Novella because it stands right next to the facade of Santa Maria Novella. Went through various uses through the centuries. And then in the 50s of the 20th century, so 1950s, it was renovated by Carlo Scarpa.
Okay.
Nonetheless. So when we say an example of modernist architecture, an example of like the best
Yeah.
Italian modernist architect. So obviously it's a little bit different. Scarpa was actually Venetian. So there's not a lot of Scarpa in Tuscany at all. And it still preserves part of what the original building was. So there, the renovation that we recently did was not easy because when you have to mix modernist architecture and design to the Renaissance, it's a little bit, but I think the architect did a really good job. And so it's, when you say that Minerva has something that is different, it for sure does. And then the rest is up to taste. But yeah, it does have something different.
It definitely does. And then you have in Forte, we're going to go back to Florence in a second, but you have Forte dei Marmi.
We have Forte dei Marmi, which is the beach town that I myself, like most of the Florentines, grew up going to during the summer. Like Italians have certain iconic vacationing destinations. And if you're from usually the south of Italy, it's Capri, which most people know. If you go in the winter skiing, you go to Cortina. If you're from Florence and Milan in the summer, you go to Forte dei Marmi. And there, my grandparents, we've been going for generations, and Elena, my aunt, over 20 years ago, she decides she wants to create her first concept of a home hotel. Okay, Grand Hotel Minerva is bigger, whereas Villa Roma Imperiale in Forte dei Marmi, like Violino d'Oro, has 31 rooms, so is really conceived as a home. And she wanted to create a place that would allow her friends and eventually her guests to experience Forte dei Marmi like someone who really knows it, who has been going there and who really understands it. And so she converted this villa into this boutique hotel.
And it's also like that architectonically is it's in a part of Forte dei Marmi where they're all like the 1920s buildings. I can't remember.
Sì, allora, there were around the Pensione America, which is the one we're going to open, is end of the 19th century, it's one of the oldest buildings in Forte because that part was, I don't know what the word in English is, but bonificata.
I hate when I know what it is. It's
it used to be
up.
Kind of a palude. It's
yeah,
wet.
It was requalified.
It was wet. There was water.
It was wetlands, and they requalified
exactly.
it, and they made it really nice. Yes.
But usable at the end, at the beginning of the 20th century. So it's quite relatively recent. Where Villa Roma Imperiale is, the villa is around the 1940s. It's the most beautiful neighborhood in Forte. It's a residential one, and Villa Roma Imperiale and Pensione America, two very different villas. Villa Roma Imperiale was conceived like a home, whereas Pensione America has been this iconic pensione during the 20th century. And really, when you go up to Villa Roma Imperiale, you really don't have a feeling. I know that the term like feeling at home and hospitality now is so abused.
Yeah, everybody's at home.
Everybody's at home. Everybody wants to make you feel at home, even if it's a humongous hotel. You feel at home. You can't feel at home in a humongous hotel. Pros and cons of small hotels: when you have a very small hotel and when it really was a house, and when someone lives there and hangs every piece of art on the wall and picks every piece of fabric, that is when, for us, it's a home. And so,
well, also when the lady in the Palazzo lives there too.
Oh, when the lady in the Palazzo lives there, then it's not really home.
So are you going to be the lady in the Pensione this summer?
From Pensione America, it's 2025. So,
it's 2025.
Yeah.
Oh.
And,
So you've got another year of being the lady in the
Palazzo.
Palazzo.
Got another year to be, but I think Elena will be the lady in the Pensione. We actually make fun of that because Pensione is a vintage Italian word that means, you can explain what it means.
It's like, I think in English I would say, how would I describe it? Because I want to say it's like a bed and breakfast, but it's like a step up. It's like a tavern. No, it's not a tavern hotel. It's like a step up from a bed and breakfast, but it's not a hotel. It's not. I don't know how to.
It's really more tied to the first part of or generally the 20th century. Like, pensiones don't open anymore. Like they exist because they exist, but nobody opens a pensione.
No, nobody. And I think wasn't there like, it used to be like it's the same. It's like you would get the half board when you would
exactly. You would get the half. You would stay a long time. You would get the half board. And so it's really funny now because when we bought Pensione America, which was this, as I said, iconic pensione, but in the 20th century. Everybody was pushing for me to change the name because a pensione again has this not very luxurious sense to it, and for me it was absolutely no, and we kept the name. But pensione also means retirement in Italian, and so I always tell Elena, my aunt, that's why she's gonna be the lady. She's gonna stay there forever and take care of Pensione America. No, I think Elena is deeply connected to Villa Roma Imperiale. She created it, and she almost lives in Forte dei Marmi, and so I'm sure that we'll both be there, but it's her baby.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to seeing there that I love about here is that there's such a reflection of the local artisanal traditions in your hotels, as well as, I mean, in general, it's not that is not the only requirement that you have to be from here. Like I know that I think for you guys, it's all about artisans in general.
Yeah.
It's all about the handcraft.
Yeah. It's for us, also for our architect.
And who's your architect?
Her name is Piera Tempesti Benelli.
I knew that. I just wanted to ask her because I wanted her to say the woman's name because it's all women.
It's all women. It's incredible. We're all women. We're very hard to work with. Also because usually a lot of the craftsmen are men, especially the one doing the hard jobs. And so it's difficult to work, and we're all women. It's always a little bit crazy. But she is wonderful. She's wonderful. She is an incredibly passionate and knowledgeable woman. But she likes to work with her craftsmen. She likes things to be done in a certain way, usually her way, our way. And so it would be impossible for us to work with someone who doesn't literally do everything for us or in general, because pre-made things just don't work. And so she has the craftsmen she's been working with since forever, the ones that we met through the years, and then finally with Violino, it was the first project I actually really participated in. A lot of my generation, so my friends, the friends I grew up with, the friends I met here in Venice.
Oh, like Micheluzzi, right?
Like Micheluzzi, which we went together, and she was my first friend in Venice, and I was very lucky to meet her because she's the essence of Venetians. She's truly Venetian, and she's one wonderful example of how Italian craftsmanship has gone through a very rough patch, but is now like really reemerging and redefining itself through the next generation. And it was really wonderful to work with these people because you really feel the love. The love and the knowledge. So these are people that come from families that have been doing this forever. So they were raised in this knowledge, and then they developed some kind of passion. They're not just there by chance. And so now they're taking it on with their own creativity. And it just I think this kind of transpires. You feel it when you're surrounded by this kind of love. And so for the first time, it's a mix of different generations and styles of craftsmen. And the same will go for Pensione America as well, yes.
Well, I can't wait to see Pensione America. I'm so happy just to have time to spend with the lady in the palace.
The lady in the palace. The crazy lady in the palace. Now in the winter, maybe in the summer it's going to look a bit more normal, but now in the winter it's
I'll have to come back in the summer and see this new lady.
Honestly, I'm having the time of my life. I'm living in this hotel that I love so much and really getting to spend a lot of time with the team. And
you feel it the minute you walk in.
A big thank you to Sara, Violino d'Oro, and Collezione M for making this episode happen. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ciao Bella. The editor of Ciao Bella is Mastro. Production manager is Jenna Spray. If you're new to Ciao Bella, take a peek at ciaobella.co, our all-encompassing Italy-focused website, where you'll find insider insight on contemporary Italy, and sign up for our newsletter for new episodes and articles. Follow me on Instagram at Erica Firpo, and follow Ciao Bella on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Leave us a rating or comment. Ciao, ciao!